Yes, yes. Hi, family. I'm an addict named Karen P. First, I want to thank this convention for asking me to speak. Uh, I thought I was just coming to relax this weekend with my sponsee, but they told me when I got here, you got to give it back what was freely given to you. And when I got here, I was welcomed with open arms, and that was back in July of 1987. And I've been coming to NA ever since. This is my first time here. It's a new experience. I like it. uh, and my topic is the most important person. Uh, in the rooms, you hear the most important person is a newer member, which is true. So if you're new, welcome. You know, to give this program a chance to work in your life. And it's going to take time, a day at a time. It's going to take time. But I know that it's a benefit in staying clean. You know, being the most important person, still with time, I feel I'm still the most important person because if I go in the opposite direction of what I'm doing now today in my life, it'll be real sad. You know, by staying around, uh, being a productive member of this society and the society out there, is you got to get a balance. Um, I've been in this process, like I said, for a little while now, and it's, you know, you got your good days, you got your bad days, but I know it's a benefit because I've been able to see my kids grow up. You know, I'm a grandma. You know, I miss my grandbaby now. I'm like, you know, I mean, I wish I would have brought her. You know, I ready to get back home and play with her and all that. But if I was doing anything different, you know, I wouldn't have been able to see that. I wouldn't have been able to see my daughter graduate, get a scholarship, go to college. You know, her dream was to play ball. Uh, but now she done lost that interest and she done switched over to want to have her own business, you know, and that's what, you know, and I could be a part of that as time go on. My middle daughter, she's a hairdresser. Thank God for that because that's a lot of money. Whew. You know, and my son, you know, I don't know. He haven't found this niche yet. You know, everybody got a niche and you don't know when it's gonna come. I'm like, well, when is yours gonna come? You still home. You know, the girls, they done got on out, they got their own places. And they said, them boys, I don't know what's different about them boys. He the last one, you know, and it might be too comfortable. I start thinking up here, I said, I think I'm gonna go home and start creating some stuff. You gonna get tired. Get tired of me. He just had a birthday. He turned 21. I'm like, you ain't tired of me yet? Man, you know, but I must be doing something right, you know. I'm maintaining my job. Right now I'm on medical. I'm dealing with a secondary illness, and I'm dealing with it, you know. You come in here, and, you know, if I start saying, oh, whoa, me, and, you know, at first you scratch your head like, why this had to happen to me? You know, going back and forth to the doctor, you know. I wasn't nothing but about 99 pounds, you know, everybody in my area. And they see me, they had to do a second look, like, what happened? The medication. Steroids blow you up. You know, and I still look like I'm a little tiny thing, but I know that I can't fit none of them clothes in the closet. But I want to get back in. Uh, but it's going to be all right, you know, in spite of, it's going to be all right. And just doing the right things for the right reason, you know. Like I said, if I was doing anything different, I couldn't enjoy things that's happening right today in my life. I just wouldn't be able to do it. My mind would just be, you know, worried about, you know, who got it and how I'm going to get up on it. And, you know, I ain't got to do all that no more. Right now, I'm not in no relationship, so I ain't got to see if he's the most important person, you know, 'cause that's a job. You know, anybody know that you're in a relationship, that's a job, you know. So I'm not doing that now, so I ain't got to worry about all that. Where you going, what time you coming back, who you with, and all that. Sometimes it's out of genuine concern, but then sometimes it's not. You know, I didn't hear stalkers and all that old type of stuff. I'm like, I'm on the break, you know, and it feels good just to get, you know, 'cause you was young, you jump right into a relationship, cause your sister and them had boyfriends, and, you know, you thought you wanted one. Then you got one, it was like, oh, you know, I think I moved a little too fast, you know, 'cause I would tell on them everything they did. Hey, you did such and such, and I had to fight and or get beat up, one of the two. But I know taking time with me, you know, showing me some love, you know, it's helping, you know, 'cause I mean I done got to the age where women get ready to go through menopause. Whew, and that's a whole chapter by itself. I'm like, Lord Jesus. But I'm dealing with that a day at a time, you know. It's just so much that I can be grateful for from the time I got here. You know, a lot of things didn't happen. A lot of people that came in my life and left out of my life. I understand that people in your life for a reason in the season, you know, and you get the good out of it, you know, and learn as you go. So, therefore, this right here is going to be an experience. So, when I do my reflections, you know, I can log in my book. You know, I was here, and I was helping Maria. I was reading the map, you know. I was like, girl, we gonna get there. She said, girl, I've been asking you for years to go, and she been bragging on Camp Mac, you know, and it's something to brag about. You know, you get up here, it's been peaceful. My cell phone have not rung. It costs too much. Don't call me. I said, I'm calling one time when I get here, let y'all know I made it, and the phone will be off. Okay, everything y'all handle. I mean, what can I do? I'm happy. You know, it's family is there. Call them. And this has been a good weekend. It's been the most important person. It's a blessing, you know, 'cause I'm the head of my household, so I know all eyes is on me. I remember early on, my daughter used to try to run the little guilt stuff on me. You know, you get clean. You know, she was like, I remember when you went up in some house and left me in front of the house, and she wanted some Jordans or something. I was like, look, that ain't gonna work. You is not about to make me feel good. I cannot afford no Jordans. You know, I don't care how many jobs I got. Get you a job, and you can wear all the color Jordans you want. I'm going to get you what I can afford. But they'll try to use all, you know, what you did in your past, and, you know, I ain't going for that. And thank God, you know, you have to sit your kids down. You know, I take the meeting home. Look, we finna have a meeting, putting everything out on the table. I can understand where you coming from, and you need to understand where I'm coming from. And I am the parent, you know. So I do have some authority. You know, if you don't believe me, we can call Protective Service, you know, and they can come over here and let you know what's really going on, you know, because you're not a ward of the state, you know, but you get kids in your house and they want to, you know, try to flip the script on you on what you did, and you know, they don't understand why you did it. We didn't understand why we did it. We got started using drugs, and drugs took over our life, you know. And yeah, we took our kids to some wild places, you know. And yeah, you did sit out in front of the house. Anything could have happened to you. You know, I don't know how long I was up in there. I want to say 5 or 10 minutes. That's what I want to say. I don't remember, you know, but she didn't. You know, and they just try to use little things, you know, come at you sideways, and I just have to keep a balance with them. I'm just glad that we was able to move past that, you know. Now they older, you know, and they could say, yeah, well, Mom, we proud of you, you know. because you never know. They watching. They still watching me. You know, with time in the program, they watching. You know, see our behavior. They done been to conventions. You know, they may want to come, you know, out here next year when I tell them, you know, the experience that I had. Who knows? So I'm glad to be here. You know, being the most important person in or outside these rooms. You just know you got to carry yourself in a manner where ENA won't. They be like, we ain't going there. Y'all out of order. You know. It's just something about how you carry yourself. Yeah, I'm a recovering addict. And there's always a stigma on that. You did what? You know, I did it. I didn't own up to it. Some of the things I did, I ain't proud of it. It happened, but I don't want to be stuck in the past on I did this and I did that. You know, I know my higher power has forgiven me. You know, it's taken me a little time, but with time, things all time heals wounds. You know, I don't have to be stuck. You know, the tool is to write about it, share with someone else about it, deal with it. Because ain't no 2 days the same. You know, I don't have no, excuse me, no long story to share. It's just that I'm doing the right thing for the right reasons, you know. And everything gonna be all right. So with that, I'm gonna bring y'all Howard. Thanks for listening.
Could Howard G. please come up?
Hello, family. My name is Howard G. and I'm an addict. I'm truly glad that the committee gave me a chance to come back again and speak on this most important person. I know for a fact that my God works through people. You know, I honestly believe that. I seen Shannon today for the first time in about maybe 10 years. And when he walked towards me, I said, "Your name is Shannon." He called me about 10 years ago and asked me to do a workshop here, you know. And that was, I think it was We Grow with Love 2 or 3, something like that. And his name just came back to me, you know. I said, ain't that something? Now he show up when I got to say something again, you know. You know, Karen, I love you, darling. You know, she's from my area, you know. I remember when I came in that area, I was the most important person, you know. I initially started this journey, this process of recovery, years before that, but I slipped and I slid. And I went to Flint, Michigan, and I got married, and I ended up back in Detroit, maybe a year later with about 9-10 months clean, and they gave me what I needed. You know, this fellowship gave me exactly what I needed. When I was in Flint, Michigan, they gave me exactly what I needed because I wanted it. You know, that third tradition, it was all inside of me. I had that desire, you know, and I was the most important person. The book always does say that the newcomer is the most important person. I was looking for that today. I said, let me look in the book. I didn't even bring my book with me. And that's odd. That's the first time out of maybe 9 trips down here I don't have my book. You know, I got one of them old books. Remember my sponsor just said, when we gonna buy you a book? You know, I got this old I think it's the third edition, you know, it's worth some money, you know, that's what they was telling me. Well, no, I've got a nice cover on it and it's going, you know, but I left my book. So I reached over on the table and grabbed the book about 5 this morning and started look through it, you know. And it was in what is a Narcotics Anonymous program that it talks about the most important person being a newcomer. And I truly agree with that, because any given day I can feel just like a newcomer. You know, it depends on what's going on in my life at that particular time. And I'm quite sure any addict can feel that way. And I'm a big part of any. I know what really helps me a lot in this process of recovery, just the identification that I'm an addict. You know, I could be in a bad space and call the helpline or just call another recovering addict, and we speak on the word addict, and I become immediately all right, because I know there's certain things that I have to do in order to stay in this process of recovery. I like to share where I'm at, my experience, strength, and hope, because that's what this program is all about, you know. Like I said, I started this journey, I think it was 87. I slipped for a couple of years, and I came back fresh in the new century, 1990, you know, with the desire, you know. And from that point forward, I haven't put any chemicals in my body, and I'm truly grateful for that, you know. And it's been a real process, you know. I always had this thing, no matter what, I don't have to use anymore. No matter what happened in my life, I don't have to use. Mama died. I go to the Super Bowl. I be with a super bitch. It don't matter. You know, I don't have to use anymore. And see, me, I have to tell myself that. Because, you know, I thought I was that guy from the beginning, you know. Camp Mac to me was a nice place to 13 step. You know, I think the first 3 years I brought 3 different women. You know, then nobody, too many people know about it. It's way out the state, you know. And that's just me getting honest, you know. I brought maybe 3 different women out here. Today, I got a family. I got a wife. I bring my kids out here, you know. And that's change for me. That's growth for me. And I feel good about it, you know. I think last year I brought my mama and her mama, you know. This year I brought my mama, you know, and that's growth for me, you know. And it's good if I can reflect back and look back, you know, because I don't have to go back. I can always just look back. This program has given me things that I never thought I could obtain, and that's just peace of mind, you know. A lot of things that I've accomplished in this life is mainly because of this program. There's no doubt about it. Because of me utilizing, the 12 steps and incorporating them into my life, I'm able to just be me, you know, just be me. I don't have to be anybody else, you know. And sharing honest about what's going on with me gives me a chance for some other people to identify, and then I become that most important person. I've shared a lot of things at different meetings where a guy pulled me to the side and said, hey man, I had that problem, and this is what I did, and gave me some insight. That therapeutic value of one addict helping another, that's what I'm talking about, you know. I utilize this particular campgrounds for many things. That bonfire, I have threw a lot of notes in that bonfire, you know, a lot of them, you know, on things that were going on in my life during these last 10 years, you know. A divorce, I was hurt. I didn't bring nobody, I came by myself, and I cried. The loss of a job, I was hurt. I came by myself, and I cried. And you people here held me. You know, and I always stayed over there, and not to say I majored, but over with the motorcycle gang. You know, that was my spot. You know, we played poker at night, you know. I'll be the only one over there with them, you know. And we'd be over there, and they held me up. They gave me what I needed. I remember one particular time when I got fired from my job, I came in, I was talking about it, and it was a guy named John. He was actually came with the group from the outskirts of Detroit, and his story was about he was a a builder, and he had did some time in prison. He worked good with his hands, and I always did that type of stuff, but I never had any real credentials, you know. He kept pushing me. He said, man, go get your license, you know. He said, you need to get your license. And I did that from him pushing. And the next year I came back, I wanted to tell him, you know, it's like I didn't really associate with him in Detroit. But when I came back, I was hurt because he was no longer with us, you know. I was like, wow, but this guy helped me. You know, he helped me. That's why I really get real worked up about Camp Mac, because it's really a great part of my life. You know, I can remember the first one. I don't even know how I got here. I think I was in my first marriage, and I was going through a divorce, and the reason for the divorce was because of infidelity on my part. And I was living in Detroit, and she was living in Indianapolis because our jobs had pulled us apart. But from the beginning, the fellowship told me that I didn't need to be with her because she was still actively using, and I was a newcomer, and I was trying to find a better way to live. So God made a way for us not to be together. But I was still trying, because when it was tight and I was on my ass, no matter what, she was feeding me and she was doing what she needed to do for me, even though she was doing things that she shouldn't have been doing. And I tried hard to make that relationship work. So when it happened, I was hurt. So I did for the newer member, make a lot of meetings, get some blue ribbon people in your life. And they all around here. You got to put some blue ribbon people in your life. And every place I stopped, that's why I put in my life blue ribbon people that said, I'm an addict, and my name is. And I was in Indianapolis. My first stop, I went down there, and I started making meetings on a regular basis while I was down there. I got some blue ribbon people in my life, and they told me about this particular convention. So I ended up coming here by myself, and I I was writing, and I just finished my fourth step, which I was scared to death of doing. And I was in Indianapolis, and an addict from out of New York, he volunteered to help me with the fifth step. Okay. And I was like, I got a sponsor in Detroit. He said, man, why you want to drag that all the way up the highway? You know? He said, what you doing after the meeting? I said, I ain't doing nothing. I'm still looking at my bankroll, because, you know, I'm from the city, the east side, and I figured he done spotted my bankroll, and he might be trying to hit me, you know, because I don't know this guy. And he say, what you doing after the meeting, man? I said, I ain't doing nothing. My wife, she was working at a plant down here in Indianapolis, and I didn't have anything to do. He said, you know how to play putt-putt? I said, yeah, I know how to play putt-putt. He said, let's go play some putt-putt golf. We went to the putt-putt course, and I did my fifth step with him. And everything I said, he had something to top it. you know, and that's how it works. You know, he made me very comfortable in getting all that garbage out of me. You know, so I felt pretty good when I came here and I put that in the fire. You know, I felt real good, and I felt even better when I started to correct a lot of it. You know, because that's what this program is about: action. It's truly about action. This process is it's a journey, you know, and there's highs and lows. Like I said, if I'd have made a list from the beginning, I'd have left a lot of stuff out. I wouldn't have thought another addict would persuade me to become a builder. I never would have thought I'd been fired and went to jail clean, you know. And that was okay, too. It was another experience, you know. I can remember being in Indianapolis. You know, I always been a good observer, and I like to sit back and observe people and just listen. Because at one point, that was my survival point. You know, I had to, if I wanted to survive in the environment that I was in, I had to observe people. And a guy walked up to me in a meeting in downtown Indianapolis, and I was sharing about experiences. Nobody can't tell me nothing because if I haven't experienced it, it sticks better when I experienced it. And he was walking out the door. He stopped at my chair and he whispered in my ear. He said, I'd like to tell you something. He said, why go through something when you don't have to? He said, why don't you just learn how to listen and take other people's experiences, whether they're good and bad, and make your own decision and make yourself a better person. I was like, whoa. My mind started to open. I know that's one of the things we need to do around here. We have to have that open mind, You say you can't draft a new idea under a closed mind, and that's a true statement. But that list, that's all I keep thinking about, that list that I didn't make, that if I would have made, I would have left a lot of stuff out, I remember coming here with a lot of DACNA merchandise, I thought I was the guy, I got jackets, T-shirts, anything you need, I'm going all around the state to help get DACNA. All around the country, I'll put it like that. No seed money, I'm on my own, All I'm doing is like I'm copying from the merchandise guy and bringing him back the money, to get this spiritual thing going, then to see it, the demise the way it did, But that's just a part of life, I seen a lot of home groups that I left that died, But that's just a part of life. I can accept a lot of things today, where I couldn't accept it a while back. I shared one time at a meeting that I wanted some kids, and I didn't have a chance to. I never had any kids, and I think I was 6 months clean on my second time around, and I was in Flint, Michigan, and I had a freak accident at work, and a week later I was in the hospital. My testicles had swelled up the size of a volleyball. And they tried to say I had the blue balls. Now, no, I ain't been doing none of that, And I really had, one of my testicles had died. I just put it like that. It took a lot for me to share that, But like I said, I was 6 months clean. I was the important person up in Flint because I was a new member. And when I went in the hospital, I was on the gurney. Because I went to the doctor and he told me that he gave me some medicine. And I was like, nah, that ain't the problem. And 3 days later, I went back to him. He looked up. He said, oh, get emergency right here. Get him out of here. Send him to emergency, And once I got there, my wife was there, and she was still in active addiction. And she was asking me for some money so she can go cop. And I'm telling her, I'm feeling like I'm finna die, To make a long story short, when I got there, and they performed the operation, the doctor told me if you could have kids prior to this operation, you may still be able to have kids. I was like, well, I don't have any kids, so But when I woke up, there was NA people all over my room. I was like, whoa. And I had fell into that why me. Now I'm doing everything right now. 6 months, I'm clean, I'm not using no more, I'm trying to change. I'm trying to be a better person, and here I lay in the hospital, nuts wide open. No, I don't want no drugs. So I'm a recovering addict, hurting like hell. They gave me one of the machines with the button, and I'm steady hitting it, pow, So I had these blue ribbon people in my life, and I like to call one of them, I called him my protege. We had the same sponsor. And my protege told me, he say, Howard, you need to stop popping them Tylenol 3s now. It's been about a couple weeks now. And you need to try to handle some of that pain without taking them Tylenol 3s, He said, get with your God. I said, man, you don't know me. I'm talking about this here. Look here. You ain't feeling what I'm feeling, Yeah. He said, I'm just telling you, my brother, I love you, Get with your high power, Seek you do some of that pain. And I did, and it worked. You know, it worked. I didn't have to pop any more Tylenol 3s. I dealt with the little pain after a while, and I was all right. Then I felt bad. Did I relapse because I was taking medication and I had to go to More to Be Revealed, you know, and it talks about that in there, you know, how we have to, you know, utilize drugs for what they, in recovery for what it's for, you know. And I had a therapist, God rest his soul, he was like, he always told us, you're a recovering addict, and you go to the hospital, you better tell them you're a recovering addict, because shit, they might not give you enough. You know, you've been using that shit all your life, and then you sick, you know. They might not give you enough to do what they need to do. You know, he said that's another reason why they tell you to do it, you know. So I guess it worked both ways. But I mean, just the experiences, you know. I know for a fact that when this fellowship evolved, we didn't even have a book. It was just about the experiences. People just getting real honest and sharing about where they at and letting it move around so we can be sitting here today, you know? So I had to stop trying to quote the book, you know, and go to certain pages and just share exactly where I'm at, because that most important person may be me at any given day, being very important by using the tools that I've learned throughout this fellowship and where I've been, and using the art of listening to another addict share, and I might have the answer to his problem. And if I could put it in a certain way where he can understand it, where another person may not, I might save his life. I think that would make me a very important person. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks to the speakers. We will be opening up the floor for sharing. I'd like to remind everybody that you are being taped. If you wish not to be taped, please let me know and we'll get the tape shut off. Thanks. Floor is open.